When people think of Skegness, they think of Fantasy Island, but just down the road is a small amusement park known as Bottons Pleasure Beach, which has been entertaining guests for decades. The question is, can this small park compete with its bigger neighbour? Let's go through all the rides and find out. Right, before I actually go through the rides then, let's just do a little bit of a background on this park. As I say, it is just down the road from Fantasy Island, so if you're in Skegness, you can't miss it. And it does come with either a paper ride or a wristband. Now, when I was there, it was cheaper to buy the wristband online than it was to buy it in person, and I just literally stood at the gate and bought one. So it has that combination of tokens or wristband, depending on your preference. Right, so let's get into the rides then, and one of them is their, I think it's a KMG, it's the kind of swinging claw, known as Freakout. And I went on this, and at first I thought, this is a little bit tame, this is a bit of a letdown. And then, kind of after a minute or two, the guy cranked it up to 11, and it got quite forceful, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So started a little bit slow, but ended on a high. So let's put this one in the keep pile. The park has 3 credits, and the largest of these is Rockin Roller. Now, it sits on the roof above another attraction that we will talk about shortly, and it is a spinning wild mouse. Now, I did this a couple of times. First time to get a POV, second time to get a rider cam. And when I went back on it the second time, the ride op said to me, the car that you're in is the fastest. He said, you don't know what it is about this car, but it spins the most. And he wasn't wrong, it was just mental. And I think I said this when I was there. You know, there are some of these spinning attractions, depending on the manufacturer, where the first portion of the ride is kind of locked and then it's free spinning. This one was free spinning from the get-go. So you go up the lift hill at weird angles, and then, as I say, depending on which car you get, you're either going to spin a decent amount or a hell of a lot. I really enjoyed this one, so as far as credits go, this one is getting kept. Right, so another attraction that they've got there is their giant wheel, which there's nothing special about this one. It is just a big wheel, and it's a weird one because on the face of it, I thought, oh, this is going to be really good because you're right at the seafront, going to get a good view over the sea, see the rest of the park, etc. And you do, don't get me wrong, but I can't remember if when I was there, I think I only got one revolution, which is always a weird thing with these big wheels because depending on how they operate it, they all load them differently, whether it's like opposing sides or like 3 gondolas at a time and then skip a few. And then it's, do you get a couple of rotations? Do you just get one? I may be wrong, but I don't think I got more than one. Certainly not more than 2 if I did get a second round. It was okay. It wasn't fantastic. It wasn't the best. And obviously, if you're not a fan of heights, it's not going to be for you. I'll put this one middle of the road. We'll chuck it and take it or leave it. Right, back to the creds. They have the obligatory wacky worm known as the Big Apple. I mean, I say this in pretty much every review video I do, but I like them simply for the first credit for the younger generation. And some of the ones I've done lately have been on their last legs and needed pushed out the station. Pretty sure this one is self-propelled. So, well, I mean, I've done it for the cred. I'm going to keep it. Now, the park has a ghost train, and it was a weird one. There was either very quiet or no audio. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. There were some okay scenes in it, kind of flashing lights and you know, all that kind of stuff and props. There was one weird section though where there's like I think it was a coffin that opened up and then there was like a naked lady inside. Seemed a bit of a strange choice. And it was reasonably short. I've been on worse. Definitely been on worse, and I've been on significantly better. So I'll put this one middle of the road as well, and we'll put it in take it or leave it. Right, so another cred that is on the park is their Runaway Train. And this one's kind of weird because, like, so it was a multi-lap special. 4 laps, I think. Certainly a decent cycle. It's one of the ones where it kind of climbs up and then it actually goes over the roof off the station. It crawls over that roof to the point I thought it was going to valley every single time it went over. Really, really slow. And then it just begins a helix and picks up a hell of a lot of pace. Flies down the helix and then back into the station. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. Definitely a step up from that wacky worm. Not quite as good as like the Rockin Roller coaster. So another take it or leave it. A flat ride that I typically enjoy is the kind of twister slash sizzler ride. And they do have one. Pretty sure theirs is just called Twister. I was underwhelmed by this one. Now, it could be that I was riding solo, because the day before I had ridden on one in Fantasy Island with Carly and had great delight in squishing her. And I was riding this solo, so I mean, part of the enjoyment of the Twister is either being squashed or being the squashy, and I was neither. Like, I was squashing myself. It also seemed reasonably slow, like not painfully slow, but certainly didn't feel that forceful. That could just be because I didn't have somebody battering into me, or I wasn't battering into somebody else. But it's another one, I'm afraid, that's going to take it or leave it. On the other hand, there is another flat ride that I thoroughly enjoyed, and it's one of those ones that it can definitely be hit and miss, and it's their Waltzers. Now, this was one where, yet again, there was a ride-op who came out and did the obligatory spinning. Now, I can never tell, this is one of the parks that allows you to film on ride, and I can never tell if they just go, oh, there's a bloke with a camera, let's pick on him, or if they actually genuinely spin everybody the same, because I got flung about quite a bit, and for some people that would be way too intense. Those who aren't fans of spinning rides probably wouldn't go on the Waltzers in the first place. I really liked it. I thoroughly enjoyed this one, and it is definitely getting kept. The final credit in the park is a very, very strange one. It's known as Queen Bee, and it's a kid's suspended coaster. Now, I think when I looked, it was Pinfari. If I've got that wrong, I'll put the correct manufacturer on screen. Pretty sure it's Pinfari. It's another one that's situated on the rooftop off on another building, which is kind of quirky. Obviously, not completely unique, but pretty rare, to be fair. So when you're up there, you can see across the whole park and stuff. And I think it was 3 laps when I did it. I don't know if that varies or if it's always 3 laps. It's strange, though, because I think each row in the train is 3 seats, which, usually it's 2 or 4, right? So 3 is a bit quirky to begin with. And it had kind of like a over-the-shoulder bar. Like, it was like a large bar that came across all 3 of the guests if I was on my own. But, it would have came across all 3. It was okay. Listen, as a kid's thing, it's probably quite thrilling for them because you don't often get junior suspended coasters, so that's kind of unique. It's nothing special. I think for that uniqueness for the younger audience, I'm going to keep it. Now, another attraction that I'd been kind of told about in advance is their Jurassic Resurrection, which pretty sure breaches a little bit of copyright. But nonetheless, it is their indoor dark ride, which somebody said it's kind of self-built. Very impressive if that is true. I mean, I don't know whether that just means they did the props themselves or whether the whole ride mechanism is their own. Very, very, very slow dark ride. Now, don't get me wrong, you don't want to whiz around and miss everything. They could probably crank it up a little bit. Because, there's some decent scenes in there. There's like a screen section. So if you've seen it's one of the Jurassic River rides in Universal. Not one I've done, so it must be kind of maybe over in Japan. You'll have seen it. It's the one where there's the screens and there's the big, like, sharks coming or like whales or whatever the hell it is, and they smash into the glass and it all cracks. They've kind of got a knockoff version of that, which is pretty cool. They've got some animatronic dinosaurs, kind of flashing lights and all that kind of stuff. So it's very, very well put together, especially given that this is an amusement park, not a theme park. So to theme an attraction to that level is quite impressive. Pretty good. Could have been a little bit faster. I'm going to keep it. Now, the last 2 attractions that I experienced are, well, one of them's temporary, but I'm going to mention it anyway. And the other one is, I don't know if it's technically part of the park because the wristband doesn't work and it's an upcharge. In fact, they're both upcharges, but as I say, one of them is definitely temporary. So one of them is their log flume. I can't remember the exact name of it, but there's a kind of log flume just at the entrance to the park, and I think it was £4 outside of the wristband when I was there. It's a simple kind of like 2 lift hill, 2 drop effort. It was decent fun. The drop was pretty good. The water was a little bit manky when I was there. That was a little bit off-putting. I'm going to keep it though. I don't know. Like I say, I don't know why it's not part of the wristband. Like, it seems too close to the park to not be owned by them. But then, why would it not be included? I don't know. But if you're there I would do it. And then the other one that I'm pretty sure, well, it definitely travels, is Big Ben, which is, I believe, the tallest star flyer in the country. Now, here's the thing. I'm not the biggest fan of star flyers. I'm not usually afraid of heights, and I'm perfectly aware of how these things are put together and how many redundancy systems they've got in them and stuff. It still gives me the fear. To be honest, still gives me the fear. And there's been a few instances around the world lately of these things that just get stuck at the top and you're up there for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. That would be terrifying. Wouldn't be for me. But I did it, and then I came off it thinking, holy crap, that was just not for me. And then Carly went, I think I might do it. So I did it twice. And then when I was on it the second time, I said to her, this isn't for me. It's not my kind of ride, but I can appreciate it for what it is. As far as star flyers go, it is an excellent one. So whilst it might not be my cup of tea, I'd keep it. Albeit it's not there permanently. So there's that. Right, now there's obviously a lot of other attractions. Like the day I was there, so they have a wave swinger. I enjoy wave swingers. It wasn't operational the day I was there. There's a number of small kids attractions, and I don't know if there's any other seasonal ones that come and go. But listen, I'm glad I went to the park. You know me, I'm a cred hunter, so I went to get the creds. If I was in the area, I would pop back in. It definitely isn't a park that I would explicitly go out my way to visit. But if I'm down that way for Fantasy Island, etc., I would pop in. Like, it's got a reasonable selection of rides. It's also got arcades and stuff. So, you know, if you've been, I'd love to know your thoughts, especially whether you agree with me on the ride lineup. If you enjoyed this one, hit that like button and please do subscribe. I've been Chris, you've been watching Coaster Dad, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios. But just down the road is a small amusement park known as Bottons something. The question is, does it do something? When people think of Skegness, they think of something. The question is, can it compete with its neighbour down the road? Is that the right words? But the question is, can this small park compete? That's the words.